Welcome to another tutorial on Adobe Lightroom Classic. In this tutorial, we're continuing on working in the Develop module. So far in the Develop module, we have cropped our photo, set the white balance, and adjusted our tonal range and created contrast here in the Basics panel. You notice I haven't touched exposure or contrast yet. After doing some of these basics, you might come up and adjust exposure if you need to. I like what we have so far. I'm in split view. I'm going to hit Y to come back out to my after image, and we're going to look at the presence section of the basics tab. Brand new in this version of Adobe Lightroom Classic is texture. This is a very good tool. What this does is this can kind of smooth over texture. This is actually really good for skin tones, moving it to the left a little bit to soften them up. So I'm going to do something like that. And you can see that if I go to the left, it kind of smooths out and makes her skin tone really nice. But it also smoothed out or softened the rest of our image. So we're going to learn how to do portrait touch-ups in a future tutorial. So for now, I'm going to bring texture back, all right? And we're going to do just the skin tone by itself somewhere. But if we do texture to the right, you'll notice it adds a lot of sharpness to the pores. And no, we don't want that. So I'm going to bring that back to 0. So what do we want? And let me click to zoom out. What we want is on almost every photo, we want to, every raw photo, we want to add a little texture or a little clarity. I'm going to leave texture for now. It's new. Still trying to figure out exactly what it does. I do know that it's a little more subtle than clarity, and it's something I'm going to show you how to use, like I said, on portrait retouching. But almost every photo, I like to do about +20 on clarity. That's going to add a little contrast to the details. If it's not a portrait, I would push it, like a landscape and there's not people in it, maybe up to 30. With people in it, maybe not even 20, maybe 15, something like that. And you can kind of adjust it, as you're looking at detail here, that type of thing. And again, we can correct the skin tones later. Dee Haze. What does Dee Haze do? So if we go all the way to the left, it adds kind of a haze to it. If we go all the way to the right, it's going to take essentially haze away and give kind of an HDR effect. Why would you use this? Typically, nighttime photography, use this a lot. You're shooting down at the beach, there's fog and a marine layer, you would use this. General photos like this, I usually don't do it too much. That leaves us vibrance and saturation. These are very similar. It's kind of like texture and clarity. Saturation is a more heavy-handed vibrance, and clarity is a more heavy-handed texture, although there's more differences than that. So as we're looking at vibrance and saturation, what do they do? Vibrance boosts the saturation of those tones or those colors that are unsaturated in the photo or less saturated in the photo. All right, so it only adds saturation, it only pushes saturation to those colors that are already undersaturated. What does saturation do? It just boosts saturation to everything. So even if a color is already saturated, it boosts it, right? So all the way to the right, overly saturates our photo. Don't want to do that. All the way to the left, takes all the saturation out, essentially black to white. And that's not how you want to convert to black and white. In case you want to know how, we'll cover that in a future tutorial. I'm going to double click, get it back to normal. Vibrance. I'm going to move this, and I usually do somewhere between 10 and 15. And I'm just looking at like maybe her dress and making that pop a little bit more. So I'm going to do 17 and then just a little overall saturation because it was dark in there. And I'm going to do Y for before and after. And another thing I like to do, and I forgot to mention earlier, is I want to see more of this image. So I'm going to click that to hide that panel, and I'm going to click that to hide that panel, and now I have more of my photo to look at. So Y for split view, and to go back, backslash before, after, and then again Y for the split view. So what we started with, this is what we ended up with by using the develop module and the basic panel.